What a title, am I right? Yeah. This is gonna transport me back to some days. This happened to me multiple times. Like multiple times, guys went around my school saying that I gave bad blowjobs. Multiple guys, okay? As far as embarrassing things go, this is like, honestly, I'm not even talking about this to like, I was so hurt, like, oh my God. Like, it's funny to me now at my big age of 21, like, so this happened to me with two different guys at two different periods during the same year of high school, that they both went around telling people that I gave them a blowjob and it was trash. This is a lot of why I do what I do. I feel like sexual acts, like I was expected to perform sexually at my age, which isn't weird. Like I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Like I was expected to perform sexually before I knew anything about sex. I was expected to give a blowjob and I'd never like watched porn. Not that porn is a good educator, but I had never seen somebody give a blowjob. I didn't really understand the anatomy of a penis. It was just like, boom, it's there. Like, put it in your mouth. Like, what do you do? There's a lot of things to do with your mouth. You can bite, you can suck, you can lick, you can just open it, you know? If you just have no idea, and then it's like, boom, there's a dick in your mouth, like, what did you expect? Sorry. That's why I don't think this story is bad anymore. That's why I think this story is funny. Because it's like, my sex ed was so fucked up that I can't blame myself for giving a bad blowjob. And I shouldn't have been blamed. And I shouldn't have been shamed. Number one takeaway, I think, is that sex can be intimate and private for some people. It can be totally public. Some people are open books. Some people don't have secrets. And it can be really private, really shameful, really hold a complete separate set of associations for another person. And you never know. When you are gonna have sex with somebody or when you are gonna do anything sexually with somebody, just keep that as private as you can, because you don't know what that means to somebody else. Even though I want to tell a lot of personal stories on this account and I want to be able to get into things that happened in my life and what I learned from like real life experiences, I'm not going to be including anybody's name or any identifying information. I'm not going to be telling a certain select group of stories. Okay, you're going to see some, but you're not going to see them all. I sat with this for a long time, like what I am and am not willing to talk about. My number two takeaway is communicate. I'm gonna get into some things that I learned that I think overwhelmingly improved my head game. But at the end of the day, what feels good to one person might not feel good to another person. You don't know until things are said. You're not a fucking mind reader. Nobody should expect you to be. And I remember when it got back to me and I literally cried at school. Like I was so hurt that people were saying these things because one, they never said that to me. It's decent to tell the person that is giving you the bad blowjob that the blowjob's bad instead of having them find out through other people telling them because you told the whole freaking school. Communicate with your fucking partners. Just literally, it is so much better to just take the time, look down, and say, hey bro, it's not working. Here's what I like. And then you get the good blowjob. Then to go and tell everyone after the fact. Communicate with your partners. My other takeaway is like, it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. Like, first of all, I don't think either of those people gave me head. No, one of them did. But did I nut? Did I orgasm? I don't think I had my first orgasm almost until a full year later. Wow, like the way we shame girls is crazy. Because one, I wouldn't have even thought to like spread some rumor that their head game was bad, even though I didn't orgasm. Because I had never even that was not my expectation. I did not expect to orgasm. That's first of all. That's the sad truth. The other sad truth is if I had spread that rumor, nobody would have given a fuck. And see, I started this story talking about I'm not salty about it. I'm not salty about it. Honestly, I needed that feedback in order to grow. I didn't need it in that way. I needed the feedback in order to grow and improve, which I believe that I've done. I've gotten some better reviews, which we'll talk about later. But I needed the feedback in order to grow. It's just how the feedback was communicated. And I'm gonna tell you just exactly how I think that I improved my game. There are general good things to know as far as anatomy goes. There are good things to just have in your back pocket, you know, to try it. And then if they're not fucking with it, you know, switch it up. So we're gonna start with penises. Don't be scared of spit. Number 2 is choking is not the worst thing in the world. Fake choking is not the worst thing in the world. Since a lot of head is visual, choking kind of gives them the idea that they are big, which is often something that's important to people with penises. Our society has kind of passed down this narrative that big penises are better able to please people with vaginas. It's not the size of the wave, it's the motion of the ocean, you know? No, there's a lot more to sex than having a big penis, in all seriousness. But we as a society have not taught men that, so the majority of sensation is in the head. The biggest thing for me in being faced with a penis and just not knowing what the fuck is going on, the biggest thing I think that has helped is just to remember that all of our anatomy is the same. Not the same, but more similar than different, right? The clitoris and the penis are what are called homologs. Until week 7 of development in the womb, humans have no sex-based differences. That means that when you're in utero and you're, you know, becoming a baby, these things evolve one way or another. There are parts that kind of match up. So the head of the clitoris, what we call the clit, even though the clit goes back, has an entire clitoral network. It's completely internal. But what we can see, what we call the head of the clit, that is the homologue of the head of the penis. So when I think about my clit and where I get the most sensation, I think about that head. And so when I think about a penis, I think about that head and that is their clit. Focusing on the head leads me to my next section, which is jaw pain. Our jaws do be hurting though. You don't have to deep throat all the time. You don't have to be really throwing that neck all the time. If you need a little bit of a break, just focus on the head of the penis and use your hands. You guys have got this vibrator, it's phallic. Okay. Use your hands and focus your mouth on the tip, on the head of the penis. First of all, my gag reflex is a bitch. Supposedly, if you hold your thumb, your gag reflex is not supposed to, you know? Even though it might be a myth, for me, it's a huge distraction. If I'm feeling jaw pain, if I'm feeling like I'm gonna gag, it's a mental thing. I can't gag if I'm holding my thumb. Your brain is powerful, so hold your thumb and believe fully, even if it is fucking made up, believe fully that it works and it'll kind of work. Another thing for jaw pain, if you are to curl your tongue like so and go in on a penis that way, that will eliminate jaw pain. If you even try it, you can tell that it's different. It's because your tongue is pushing back against your jaw, so it doesn't feel like your jaw muscles are doing all the work. Your tongue is kind of doing a lot of work, and your tongue's a lot stronger. Your tongue's the strongest muscle in the body. Now, when your tongue is the one that's creating the expansion, then that's gonna hurt a lot less than if your jaw is. I don't know what number piece of advice we're on, but you also want to suck those teeth back into your gum. Just pretend you don't have teeth. So you're gonna go from kissing somebody all the way down to their penis. So kisses all down low, and honestly sustain those, because That's erotic as hell. And when you get to the region, go around their legs, go around their balls, using your tongue, using your mouth. There's a lot of sexual energy in the buildup, in the anticipation. Ultimately, when I do feel like it's time to start sucking dick, how I'll usually initiate, because the penis isn't wet yet, obviously, is I'll lick on the underside of the penis. That's called the urethral grove, and that's where you'll land at the frenulum. The frenulum is the sort of V-shaped part of the skin. It's literally where the head and the shaft attach on the underside. And it can be a very sensitive erogenous zone, which circumcised or uncircumcised, for the most part, the frenulum should still be present. The same way that you will sort of want to move your hand in circles if you are focusing on the head, you can move your jaw in the same sort of way. Honestly, in all honesty, before I watched porn, I remember seeing the lady in the grapefruit video. Do you know what I'm talking about? Grapefruiting your man. I remember seeing her doing that, and I was like, I don't have to do all that. Like, she was doing a lot. But that circular motion was kind of good for me to keep in mind before, I had any other visual representation of what it meant to suck dick. Moving on to people with vaginas. Honestly, the whole sustaining kisses and like kissing slowly, like as you go down somebody's body, that works for anybody. Penis, vagina, whatever. When it comes to vaginas, you have a lot of options, and you have a lot of people who like things one way and not the other way. So again, communication is obviously key. One, there are some people who, depending on the size of their labias, often get off one way or another. And it's either on your back or on your stomach. So people who get off on their back might want to remain on their back while receiving head, whereas people who get off on their stomach might want to change positions and be riding face. Two, and this has to do with how your clitoris is attached to the labias, whether it pokes out more or whether it doesn't, is whether or not you want a flat or pointed tongue. Some people, flat tongue, lot of surface area coverage, generally keeping the area wet. Some people want the precision of a pointed tongue. My other thing, you can change up the motion. A lot of the time, for people with vaginas, repeated motion can be very irritating. It can be very irritating on their labias. It can be completely irritating on their clit. So you kind of want to change it up. There's a sort of wide range of motions that you can go for. Circles, up and down, left and right, tapping, spelling things, dispersed, random, speed, tempo. For moments when you do want to go faster, you need to evaluate your own tongue. If it's hard for you to have that rapid speed going up and down, remember that it might be easier going side to side and just moving your head. Some people love a finger or two. Some people love a finger or two. The clitoral head is being stimulated, but also the clitoral network is being stimulated from inside them. So if you're reaching their G-spot with your fingers as well, they might have a better orgasm. For some people, it can be really distracting or take away if they're not getting very much from G-spot stimulation. Then it can really take away from the clitoral stimulation that they were experiencing when you didn't have your fingers in them. So talk to your partner about fingers. Talk to your partner before you start biting. I wouldn't just go in and chomp. Something really good to keep in mind when you're eating somebody out is the pressure of the tongue that you're using, right? So sometimes that's harder for us to communicate as opposed to like speed, like it's either be like faster, slower. But I think a lot of people don't know what people mean when they say softer. They mean instead of licking them like, lick them like. A lot of the time for a clitoris, if you go in with hard, fast sensations, it's really overwhelming. But when somebody gets closer to orgasm, you can go a little bit harder. You can hit them with a little bit more pressure in the tongue. For jaw pain for y'all, for tongue pain, because that tongue pain is real. If your mouth gets tired while you're using your tongue, you've already wet the entire region. So you can use your lips and the wetness you've created with your spit to kind of keep it going. If you don't want to keep your mouth open, purse your lips and keep the motion going, even if your jaw hurts, your tongue hurts, whatever. The last thing I want to talk about is the concept of performance, performativity. What you might hear a lot of folks in the sex ed field saying is that sex shouldn't be a performance. But how do we rationalize the fact that oral sex is a very visual thing with this notion of like, we shouldn't have to be performing? According to sociology, everything is a performance. The self is a performance, which means that you're a different person with your parents than you are with your friends. All of them are you, they're just different performances of you. I don't think performance is inherently bad. I think it's natural. I think things like pressure, I think things like comparison are bad. Putting expectations on yourself or somebody else putting expectations on you, that's bad. We usually associate that with feeling like you have to perform, feeling like you have to be this sex god. That's not what I mean by performance. I'm not trying to encourage you to fake your orgasms. But fake moaning totally turns me on sometimes. And I know it does the same for some of y'all. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit extra, being a little bit dramatic, being a little bit more out there if it enhances you or your partner's experience. It's that other person's moment to shine. That's why a lot of people derive pleasure from it, is because, you're giving somebody else pleasure and that makes you feel good, depending on what kind of person you are. But it's that person's moment to shine. So like, why not give them, that performance? As long as it's not coming from a place of, oh, I have to do this because porn stars do this. Like for me, in thinking about oral sex as a performance, I kind of tried to standardize my performance. In my head, I feel like I'm constantly trying to think of like my oral sex routine, like so that I never have to go through that feeling of looking at a penis and just feeling overwhelmed ever again. I just want to like, first I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, gluck gluck 3000 combo. But I found that like standardizing my performance really didn't work. Because first of all, I'm not gonna fucking remember it. Really, my ability to perform in that sense has more to do with my level of comfort with that person. So yeah, I'm giving these tips, tidbits of advice, information, not so that you can come up with some perfect routine, but so that you can have them in your back pocket, because I really do think that comfort and communication are first. I hope y'all enjoyed the first installment of the Sweet Nothings Patreon. I'm really excited to have this platform. I'm really excited to hear your feedback and to continue this work.